Hello, my name is Laila Hollins, and I'm a second year in the BFA Animation program. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to meet legendary animator Dan Haskett. Dan Haskett is a native New Yorker who now lives in LA and trained under Disney's 9 Old Men from age 18. His career spans many beloved works such as animation and character design work on The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, The Brave Little Toaster, Animaniacs, various Scooby-Doo titles, and most recently, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. He was a great guy, and I enjoyed getting to know him, and I hope you enjoy getting to know him as well. Enjoy the video.
I heard you got into the animation industry like really fast, like out of high school fast. What was that first job like for you?
Well, it was quite short. I was working for a fella named Seamus Culhane, and at that time he was doing commercials. And so my job was ink and paint, and I guess you'd say production assistant, which in those days was just called office boy or office girl. It meant that we ran around town, picking up and delivering supplies and things like that, and delivering artwork over to whatever camera service was going to shoot it, and that kind of a thing. So that's what I did.
When did you know art and animation were the things you really wanted to pursue?
Well, that's a nice, easy one. I knew that by the time I was 3 years old, and I actually started drawing for other people when I was 4 years old.
No, that's really cool. Starting at 3 years old,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Wasn't making any money for it then, but 3 years old.
But it was like worth the labor and all. Where do you usually find your inspiration?
Basically, this was one of the good things for me about growing up in New York, was that there was inspiration all over the place. Just seeing people in action on the street, things from memory, things from family, things from friends, things from movies, TV, and everything. It comes from life in general. Nowadays, I have to admit, sometimes it gets a little more difficult, even though we have the wonderful internet for all kinds of information and inspiration. And now that the internet has become the artist's file instead of an actual filing cabinet, now you have the internet, so you can go, you can get anything from any time period, from any place on earth. It's interesting because I know for a lot of people that it seems to come from other cartoons. That is true to some degree for me too, but not as much, not anywhere near as much as from just day-to-day living. And I think for any animator or any character animator, any performer, that's always going to be the best source for inspiration.
Definitely agree with that. I've only been in New York for 2 years, but I've always been in the city, and just observing people around you is always so much, I guess, artistically, but also just like almost like emotionally helpful. Like you get to like just see all of the beauty in all of these little things, and you get to put that into your art, which I think is interesting. The best advice you've been given?
The first time around at Disney, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, and this was the piece of advice that everybody who was a green newcomer got, because when you're a very young animator, sometimes you want to show off what you can do. And so you animate things where characters are bouncing off the walls. Art Stevens and others would always say, tone it down, tone it down. Tone it down, because what he was saying was that we're doing something here where we're trying to make these characters believable to the average viewer. This is not to show off to your fellow animators. This is something that is meant to have other people relate to it, so that they care about these characters. Not how smoothly they can move, but do I give a damn what is happening to this character in this story that I'm watching?
What was like the scariest moment of your career?
I guess would have to be that first job. Because of course, I had absolutely no idea what I was going to run into. Being that it was the first, I thought, well, is everything in order? Am I okay? But I don't really, aside from that, I really can't think of anything else that was really scary. Because the way I approach things, I've always felt like I want to do, I know I can do a certain amount of quality. And this is as good as I am at any given moment. So I don't worry about what I'm doing. You know, I leave it up to whoever I'm working for to say, okay, do you like this? Do you like that? Whatever. But I don't get nervous. I don't get scared about it. You know I can always be better, but I know at any given time, this is the best that I can do. So it doesn't bother me.
That's a great mentality to have, like just generally as an animator. But I feel like a lot of animators, like their work is almost like their soul and their heart. And when that gets shut down, it's almost like heartbreaking. But to have that mentality where you're just like thinking, this is what I made, I can show it to the director, see what he thinks. That's a great mentality to have, really. Try my best to have that, but sometimes I do put a bit of my heart into what I give people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to put your heart into everything that you do. That's another reason why you can't afford to let it bother you, because you know this is the best I can do at this moment. If they don't like it, well, that's the way it goes. But there's always somebody else. There's always someone else who will.
What advice would you give to aspiring Black animators?
Change the business. The business is due for a major overhaul, I think. I would love to see more people get really involved in running with the ball. This is a medium that is capable of so much. And what I would say to people just starting in the business is learn as much as you possibly can. Talk to a lot of people. Don't be afraid. Don't hold back, because I understand, the fear of meeting somebody, who's been around for a while and all that kind of stuff. But one thing that I miss so very, very much about the business as it was that most people were learning on the job. Having the ability to day listen to people who came before you. It's a school that is very, very different from any other kind of formal education.
Do you have any final thoughts, final advice?
I would say for Black newcomers, I would love them to take a look at some of the podcasts out there, because there's a lady named Deborah Anderson who has a podcast on YouTube called Black Women Animator. And she has taken it upon herself to interview all kinds of old-timers like me and newcomers and in between. And I think she just reached her 100th interview.
You're definitely going to check her out, because, I'm a young person. I didn't even know she did that. So thank you so much for telling me about all this stuff.
Oh, sure. I mean, there have been Black people in this business at least since 1950. There were a lot more than you would expect.
Because I don't even see people that look like me a lot, in the industry now. So yeah, it's a shock to me.
I'll do something about that. Yeah.
I'll do something.
I'm very glad to see people who are working independently, who are working, who are setting up their own studios and so forth. I'm very glad to see that happen. And
thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to be able to interview you. Amazing opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Great to meet you.